everyone, and let me start the session by speaking a little about GeoParsi. Parzor Foundation has been implementing the GeoParsi scheme sponsored by the Ministry of Content Developer and Voice Artist. In November 2021, she was recognized as one of the 99 Achievers of India 2020 by the Indian Achievers Club. Regarded as one of the most respected awards of India, interviews with all the winners, including Binayfer, have been compiled in a digital book, which is available for corporate circulation and reaches out to more than 54,000 associated members of various organizations and clubs, including the Rotary Club, FICCI and CCI, and more than 63 universities across India and the globe. In December 2021, Binayfer won an award in the Best Female Voice Artist, English Audiobooks Narration category at India Voice Fest Awards 2021, which is the biggest celebration of voice artists community in India. She received this award for her narration of the flute, an audio story that is available on the Storytel India app. She has been a recipient of the prestigious India Voice Fest Award for the third time in a row. In 2019, she received an award in the Corporate AV English Female category for an audio visual for Reliance Foundation. In 2020, she was announced as the winner in the Best Female Voice Artist, English Hello. Binayfer, can you hear me?
Pearl, it's really very sketchy. I think it's your network,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah,
Pearl, you may want to turn off your camera. Nehru, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, Binayfer, very clearly.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just got connected on another line. Sorry, so I'll just continue. She has been a recipient of the prestigious India Voice Fest Award for the third time in a row in 2019. She received an award in the Corporate AV English Female category for an audio visual for Reliance Foundation. In 2020, she was announced as a winner in the Best Female Voice Artist, English Audiobooks Narration category for Storytel India's original audio story titled Shakuntala Devi, which is based on the Mad Genius. As a voice artist, Binayfer has narrated about 50 audiobooks and stories. She has voiced a number of corporate AVs, TV and digital ads, etc. for some of the biggest Indian and international brands, including Tanishq, Reliance, Flipkart, Milton, Sterling Holidays, UNESCO, Google India, Amazon India, Tata, Asian Paints and TV channels such as MTV, Colors Infinity and ZQ. She has also appeared in a number of panel discussions and articles where she has spoken about her journey as a writer and voice artist and the various facets of voicing industry. Meru Kotwal. Meru Kotwal was in a corporate setup for 23 years till she set up her own training company. Being done with the formality of officialdom, she volunteered to set up HR systems in 2 NGOs and dabbled being on the editorial board of a community magazine. She is on the governing council of Astha Foundation over 10 years and an active member of Avni, a women's leadership group. Her passions are wildlife, Western classical music. She sang 32 years in the Paranjoti choir. She is a serious student of Zoroastrianism, a travel buff. She likes new experiences and different cultures and settings, especially if it entails national parks and the wild. So welcome both of y'all.
Thank
to
you
this
so much.
lovely evening.
Thank you so much.
Over to Meru and Vinay.
Yeah, so welcome all of you. I'm so glad to see so many people, and I hope it becomes worthwhile as we go ahead. So, Benaifa, before we continue with the thing, I would like to know exactly what distinguishes you to be all the things that Pearl said that you are: lifestyle writer, content developer, voice artist, translator, you do dubbing. So could you give us a gist of what is it that distinguishes you when you do all of these things?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nehru. To begin with, a very, very warm good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining on a Friday evening. A big thank you and shout out to Dr. Kama, Shamla, Pearl, Shashikant, and everyone at Parzor and GeoParsi for having us, for having Meru and I today on this esteemed forum. So, Meru, to answer your question in a nutshell, I think the three things that have really kind of stood by me through my journey as a lifestyle writer and voice artist are the three qualities of perseverance, passion, and patience. I think which are the prerequisites if you are deciding to kind of join any creative area or creative line of work, so to say. So to just kind of, go a little back in time, I am a writer first, and I was working at a publication house until 2011. In 2011, I did a voice workshop and instantly fell in love with the mic. But I think the first couple of years, it was a one-way love affair, wherein I was in love with the mic. The mic wasn't as much in love with me. And in 2017, things really turned around. The audiobooks came in, the digital market really boomed, etc. Which is after which, my career really took off, the voicing one especially. And today I would say that 80 to 90% of my work is around the voicing space, and 10 or 15% is around very limited content and feature writing. So that's all thanks to the patience, perseverance, and huge passion that I have.
Great. So do you have a role model? And if so, who is this person?
I think, Meru, I do not have like one consistent role model, so to say. But I would say, like, my voice coach and my mentor, Mr. Pati Iyer, who is basically a theater artist and a veteran actor. He is basically, he's my mentor for life. Because I think even after so many years of being in the industry, he still watches my work, still corrects me, and I still feel like a student, which I feel very blessed about. I think in my personal life, the one person who always kind of really, really emphasized on the beauty of the language, especially English language, was my father. So I think right from emphasizing on how important the handwriting is to the art of the language and everything, he has played a very, very important role, especially in my love affair with English. My mom's always been like a grounding factor when it comes to Gujarati. Gujarati to bolwanu achkirma. That sort of a thing. And I think, apart from that, I think you're constantly learning from every person. So I may watch a Gulzar Saab and be in awe of his amazing Hindi. I may kind of step into a studio and it's beyond just the voice. It's about, how somebody modulates. So it cannot be, for me, it's never been one consistent figure. I'm constantly learning, constantly in awe, constantly getting inspired by different people for their talent, for the way they're approaching work, so many things.
So as you said about your father, my love of English came from my mother, who was an English literature teacher. So
Wow.
that's a sort of connect that we can have.
Wow.
So what do you need to keep in mind when you get a new customer or a new client? I'm sure the needs of every customer is a little different. So yes. Tell us quickly what that could be.
So Meru, I think every project, even I've been in the industry for the last 11 years, and I think anybody who's been in the industry for even 25 years would tell you one thing, that approach every project like you're doing like approaching your very first project. So, you have to very often unlearn what you've already learned. You cannot like I always feel that, when I enter a studio, I'm given the script. I spend 5 minutes with the script. The director, the writer, the agency, the production house has probably spent months on end with the script. So you need to really respect the amount of time they've spent with the script, and thus really, really kind of, listen to the brief that they're sharing with you, listen to the direction that they're giving you. And I think, like become a student every time. Like I said, just unlearn whatever you have learned, because every project is a new project. So yes, it's not only about voicing. That is when your listening skills come into play, that you need to be as much of a keen listener if you want to be a decent enough voice artist. Yeah.
So as you're talking about customers and clients, etc., how did the pandemic affect you? Did you lose any clients? Or did you get many clients? How did that pan out for you?
I think, Meru, I think everybody has a very unique story when it comes to the pandemic and how it's affected their respective life and careers. Fortunately for me, I was able to kind of arrange for a mic and a home setup thanks to my aunt. And yeah, so, I was one of those early boomers, early birds who could do that, which is why I think, I started recording from my home itself. And which is why the pandemic, yes, yes. And you believe it or not, it's not very common in India, but internationally, most voice artists have a little space dedicated in their homes, where they have like a portable studio, like a portable setup, sort of a thing, So while the concept of home studios and home setup came into India, thanks to the pandemic, internationally, it's always been there. And I think like even now, thanks to the amount of comfort, you end up saving a lot of time, commuting from, I don't say traveling, I say you commute in Bombay, you don't travel in Bombay. Travel is fun and leisure. So, even going from one place, like I stay in Andheri. So if I were to go to a South Bombay studio, that's at least an hour and a half to 2 hours of a one-way trek. Really, really helpful. So yes, I would say that the pandemic was kind enough to me, at least in my professional space.
You're one of the few who has that to say, Binaifa, because it has really devastated families, professionals, a whole lot. But I don't want to get into that at this point of time. So when you are doing your voiceovers, do you mark your script and give us a clue? And if you have examples, we all would love to hear them. So
sure.
Yeah.
So to begin with your question, do I mark the script? Yes, when I initially started, voicing, I would mark the script. So the one thing that you really need to keep in mind is the pauses. So the right amount of pause when it's a full stop, the right amount of pause, dot pause when it's a comma or, a semicolon, etc. Today, of course, I do not need to mark the script, but that's because of the years of, training and experience. But, you can always even ask your client that which are the words that you want me to focus on, the words that you want me to emphasize. And then, I think, just involving your client gives them, a feel that, yes, she is included. She is not just doing this entire job just as a voice artist. She's as involved in the project, and she's really taking a lot of personal interest, So when you kind of include the client, ask them, what are the words you want me to focus on, the highs and lows, etc. Then typically Indians have this thing of, it's a very Indian thing to end sentences on a high note. So those are things you need to really control and, be very conscious of. And I know after a couple of years, you start getting very, I think, very defensive when a client points things out to you. But you need to, rule number one, throw your ego out of the window or out of the studio. I've had a studio wherein, there's a big, poster saying that please leave your footwear and your attitude and ego outside this dubbing room. So I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Yeah, Nehru, I would love to share some of my work.
Lovely.
Yes, so if, yeah,
You'll tell us what it is, etc.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so to begin with, I'm going to play this Tanishq video that I had kind of, recorded a couple of years ago, which is all very classy and very upmarket, so to say. So yeah, I'll begin with that.
Are you going to share screen, Binaifa?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do that. 1 second. Share screen. Mm. 1 second.
Be party ready with statement earrings and gorgeous cocktail rings. Tanishq presents Glitterati, starting at rupees 65,000. Be party.
Okay, so this is the first ad that I'd like to share with you all. Now, a complete contrast to all the classiness is a very chirpy, bubbly, vibrant Benaifa in the Myntra ad.
India's biggest fashion sale is back.
India's fashion expert brings you the biggest deals from your favorite brands across the biggest range of styles. इससे बड़ा sale कहीं नहीं मिलेगा. Wishlist your favorites. Don't miss out. Myntra end of recent sale starts 18th December. Wait for it.
India's biggest.
And I'd like to share my third.
Binaifa, a
Yes,
question.
sure.
Are all the voices yours?
Yes, they are.
Wow. Wow. So you rehearse when you are going to be a little girl and when you are going to be a little more adult before you.
I think, what happens, Meru, is that I think, the first thing that you keep in mind is the brand. So I know Myntra is a youth-centric brand, wherein the target audience is in their early 20s, 30s. So you cannot be very subtle. Tanishq is a brand which is all about, like this particular range that they had was 60,000 and up. So it's not going to cater to the teenage audience or the ladies in their 20s or something. I mean, unless you're a really rich man's daughter or wife, of course. So yes. So
what is the next one?
Yes, the next one that I'd like to share with you is 1 second, is probably that's going to break a lot of the cliches. The first one being that Parsis cannot speak Hindi. Yes. So and also this is really subtle. This was for a fundraiser. Yep.
मुश्किलें
Can you hear the video?
No.
You could not hear it. Oh, okay, I'll do that again.
Just the beginning and then it sort of quietened down to nothing.
Oh, you still can't hear? Okay, 1 second then.
Try it once more, Binaifa, otherwise.
Yes, I will. Just 1 second.
मुश्किलें होंगी आसान जब हम देंगे एक दूसरे का साथ आइए मिलकर उन मासूम आंखों से टपकते हुए आंसुओं को खिलती मुस्कान में बदल दे। छोटी सी आशा for the future of our children, a fundraiser by Rotary India and Wishcraft International.
Yep, that's me.
So Binay, you showed us 3 samples of what you have done, and there's a lot of inflection, a lot of change in attitude. How do you manage to keep your voice always well? And, what are the do's and don'ts that you have to follow or you have decided for yourself? Because there is no one do's and don'ts for all people.
Absolutely. So there's no one shoe that fits all. But I think before I answer this question, I think, Meru, I'd like to ask you this. Having sung for like 32 years, I would love to know this from you, in fact. What do you do?
So for me, there is universally a lot of little do's and don'ts, but the universal do for me is to drink a lot of water. So to keep moistening my vocal cords, even before going up on stage. That's one universal do for me. And the universal don't is never overeat. Never feel, oh my God, I've eaten so much. You have to be light on the stomach, and that's it. And I know a lot of people say don't have tea. I have sugarless tea because the sugar, as our conductor says, voice box, upper voice cord chapte jai, which means the voice box, the voice cords get a little sticky. So I do like tea, but I have it without sugar. So I think these are the universal things. And then, depending on how long you have to sing, how long you have to stand, all that keeps changing a little bit. But water to drink and light on the stomach, absolutely a must. Because as you know, if you have a reflux, it actually burns the vocal cords temporarily. And that is a disaster.
That is right. That is right.
Over to you, Binay.
So in fact, Meru, it is just not one day of preparation. It's not like, oh, today I have a recording, so I just need to be all good and disciplined today. It's what you are all the previous days before your main recording happens, and which, for most voice artists is on a daily basis. And for most of us, we sometimes have 3 to 4 recordings every day. So we need to really, really protect our voice. Like I say, it's our bread, butter, and biryani. So it's where we get all these 3 things from. So I think there's, first of all, no one shoe that fits all, so to say. So there are many artists who do not even touch cold food or, ice or any like cold beverages, which honestly is not an issue with me. But the one thing that's poison for me is sour food. So I really, I cannot have most fruits. I cannot really have a lot of dahi. So I have to be very, very careful about these certain things, when it comes to like really preserving my throat and my vocal cords. And like you said, I love the point that you shared about the sugar bit. There are a lot of artists who do not have chai or any milk-based beverage. Before their recording, which honestly works well for me. I've had artists who are sitting with parathas and achar. I can't have a lot of oily food just before my recording. And I think just staying light is a great thing. But, when you're having back-to-back recordings, you do not really have the luxury of eating 2 or 3 hours before your recording, because you do not have that kind of, time gap or space between 2 recordings. So I think just eating a little bit mindfully. Warm water, I think, is a universal go-to kind of a thing. I think, you just need to understand what works for you and what does not.
Absolutely.
And I think the one thing that I think every person who basically has anything to do with the voicing world, be it a singer or a voice artist, is I swear by pranayams. The yogic breathing exercises, because they really open up your vocal cords, your nasal passage. If you have some existing problem, which most of us have because of the kind of air that we breathe. So yes, so just these little things that you're going to be careful about will really help you to kind of sustain your throat and voice.
So there is a question here, Benaifa, which I see. I don't know, do you want to answer them one at a time or do you want to do them all in all? The question is, does one also need acting lessons, Benaifa? In a brief way,
yes.
just answer, Heta.
So thank you so much for the question. Very nice question, Heta. So I think acting lessons just generally can kind of enhance your way of expression. So like they say that somebody who's learned, who's done theater, who's learned acting will always be a very fine artist. So a lot of the voice artists, in fact, are trained actors. They perform on stage. You have mainstream actors today who have become voice artists as well. So I think it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing, especially when you're entering, the dubbing industry. So I basically do a lot of narrations. The other side of it is dubbing, wherein, you see a voice behind an animation character, or maybe, a Hindi movie that is having an English voice. So that's another area of voicing. So yes, it's a big plus point if you do get, kind of, consider taking acting lessons. And it just trains you better to understand moods, understand the finer nuances of certain words, etc. So yes, it's not absolutely essential, but it's a great add-on.
So talking about acting, Benaifa, a logical question that comes to mind. We all have moods. We all hear not very good news. So when you are down and out and you've had a horrible day, how do you manage it? Let's say if you are doing this bubbly ad like Myntra, how do you manage to camouflage your down and out? How do you manage to have a fairly sustained voice at that point of time?
So Meru, I think 2 words: disconnect and detach. I think,
but yes.
I think when you become it is very tough. I think when you decide to become an artist in any capacity, be it an actor, be it a voice artist, you have to kind of, learn the art of disconnecting, because, you have a client, you have an entire audience that's depending on your performance. So of course, there have been days when I've been really down and out and I've had the happiest script to record. Or probably there have been days when I'm extremely happy and have the most glum and morose script to record. So there could be either extremes. But I think what's key for an artist is to kind of really disconnect, because you need to be really respectful and mindful about the fact that there are people who are depending on your output, on your voice. So you don't, so if you're 100% down and out, I think a nice day at the studio is at least going to save you by 10%, right? So I think 90% being down and out is a lot better than being 100% down and out. So yes.
So between stories and audiobooks, I think you've done almost 50 audiobooks and 50 plus stories. Would you have any kind of, would you give us an example of that and how you manage to keep your voice intact, irrespective of the dips and the ups and the downs? Do you have, would you have?
Yeah, so Meru, I'd love to play one sample, which is the flute, for which I won my India Voice Fest 2021 award. I'll just play that and yep.
What is it about whilst you are getting
it's basically this original script, original story written by Vibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay, and it is basically translated in it's Bangla. The original is Bangla and it's translated in English. So it's a very beautiful, it's a very melancholic script, so to say, and yeah, so, and which has got like so many moods, and like typically an audio story is filled with narratives and like a lot of first person, like a lot of first person voicing. So, one sec.
A million
Yeah. So I think
A million constellations burnt inside of her. Little memories, inconsequential memories. Memories so unimportant that they weren't worth remembering. And yet, every story, every word, every rhyme, every phrase flew back to her like long lost siblings. So intimate, so intimate. In trying to forget, she ended up remembering. There are things that cannot be forgotten. There are things that return on their own volition from some distant land, finding their way out of the abyss, like the southern wind that visits in spring, shaking everything in its wake. The stories of her past returned, in tune, quite vigorously, washing her in excitement and jest in their wake, filling her to the brim, infinite. She found herself drowning in warmth of the recollection, in its distant colors and its familial fragrance. There are things that cannot be forgotten. And just like that, Sulekha thought of so many things. Her mother-in-law called out to her from below, "Bauma! Where are you, Choto Bau?" The older wife shouted, "Come on out, we're waiting downstairs." She walked down the stairs. "It's because of you that the imp has turned into a little devil," the older wife said. "You've let him sit on your head. Now see the fallout? He won't have his food unless you're the one feeding him. We tried for hours. No, he won't listen." Sulekha didn't reply. She started feeding the child in silence. The task of feeding her nephew wasn't short of waging a war only Sulekha could win at. He had 1,000 demands, tantrums, and wishes that needed to be fulfilled at the dining table. Sulekha wasn't a stranger to those, but somehow she couldn't find herself concentrating that day. "You brat," she said. "You've grown to the size of a bull and still you can't eat by yourself? I can't do this. Go on, eat." She understood that the child's belly wasn't full. It was difficult to ascertain whether he was doing this in a half. Something was amiss that day. Where second helpings were accustomed, a strange weariness seemed to have taken hold of her. It was Banoj. Banoj, who had set up camp in the wilderness of her heavy heart. Only him, no one else. Everything was vanishing. This earth, the tremulous weight of existence, everything seemed to be retreating from this young widow, being washed away by the sea of longing. Only
yeah.
Binayfa, really moving, really
Thank you so
moving.
much.
And
Thank you.
again, as I say, the inflection of your voice to characterize the person you are talking about, quite amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, this is just a comment. So are there other, sorry, we are in Parzor and we are with GeoParsi. So the question is a little skewed in that sense. Could you acquaint us with other Parsis in this profession? Are there others? And
Yes.
okay, so why
Yes,
don't you go ahead?
there are quite a few Parsis who are in fact my seniors. Who've been around. Many of them are even actors. So there is Nazneen Madan, there is Khurus Wadia. There are quite a few Parsis, and I think the one thing that Parsis are synonymous with is one thing is they're always fair, and the second thing is they're always rich, and the third thing is they have fab English. So it's a given that we are going to be great at our scripts and things like that. So yes, there are a lot of, not a lot, but there are quite a few Parsis who are doing great work in the industry. And I think just generally, so there are voice artists who are Parsi voice artists. And then you also have Mr. Boman Irani, who is also kind of doing a lot of narrations. And, I think he's even done audiobooks. So yes, so you have a couple of the actors who are playing multiple roles. So yes, I think Parsis have always kind of been so creatively inclined, and it just makes me so proud to kind of, be part of this entire great creative group.
So where do you get your customers for audiobooks? Who, for example, will ask you to do an audiobook?
So, first of all, just in a nutshell, an audiobook is basically a novel in an audio format. Not very popular in India, but it's slowly up and coming, so to say. The two big players in the industry right now are Amazon's Audible and Storytel, which is where this particular story is uploaded. Where do I get the customers? There could be multiple, channels. It could be directly from an Audible or a Storytel. It could be the publication house. It could be the writer. It could be a coordinator from multiple ends. But I think audiobooks is my most favorite part of my voicing career, because I think, every other medium, be it a corporate film or be it an ad or anything, you have music and you have special effects and all, which kind of really lift up the entire final product. And you have the video, of course. In an audiobook, I take complete responsibility of the output, so it's just my voice and the way I play with it. There is no background music. Some audiobooks do have background music, but most of them do not. So I basically make or break. I lose or keep my audience just through the power of my voice. So
Have you done it? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, that's it.
No, have you done any translations or book translations as an audiobook? Done
No.
from Hindi or Marathi or Gujarati or whatever into English?
Yes, I have done a couple of them. The one that I have particularly loved and which I think in my audiobook journey is one of my favorites is this book called The Hangwoman, which is an award-winning book originally written in Malayalam by K.R. Meera. It's a beautiful book. And I think that was one book wherein I really looked forward to, like, what's going to happen tomorrow. I want to go to the studio because I want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the amount of, the moods, the narration, and the female protagonist had so many shades and layers to her that I really got so involved. So yes, I would say that was one of the best pieces of work, which is originally in Malayalam. In fact, even the story that we just heard, like I said, it's originally in Bangla, and which got translated into English. And in fact, I would just say generally a lot of regional content is really big and booming right now in India. So the one thing I would really like to say, I'm so glad, Meheru, that you brought up this point, is that while English is my primary mode of language for voiceovers, the one tip that I would really want to give to each and every voice artist is please love your mother tongue. Do not shy away from really kind of voicing in your mother tongue. English is not the only language. It's not the cooler space to be in or the cool quotient or anything of that sort, because today regional content is really big in India, and knowing your mother tongue is an added language in your portfolio. So I do regret that I'm very fluent in like Gujarati, but I cannot read or write the language. I should still learn it from my mom. It's never too late. But yes, so it's a slightly long drawn task if I were to kind of do a Gujarati script. But yes, I really would want to emphasize, because we have a lot of people from, I think various communities who joined us today. And I would just want to say that please love your mother tongue and your mother language and explore it as much as possible.
Okay, I think I'm going to just ask you one more question, Binaifa, because we will keep some time for audience questions and comments or whatever, interactive with them.
Sure.
What guidance would you give young people who want to join and enter this profession?
Meheru, I would just like to correct your question by saying that just not young. There's never an age for it to start anything. So pardon my correction, but I think you could probably enter the industry even when you're 40, 50, there's no age limit. There are a couple of things that people need to keep in mind, irrespective of their age, is first of all, the fluency of the language that you are, pursuing your voicing career in. So really, really, be it English, be it Hindi, whatever, just be really on point with your grammar, with your vocabulary, etc., because that is what makes a first-time client a repeat client. It's very impressive. I think just generally, for somebody to be a good, orator or a good speaker, or to be good with their language skills is extremely impressive. I'm sure you would also agree. So that is one thing. As I mentioned earlier, just don't voice, please listen to things. So if you are wanting to become a voice artist, don't just watch ads, listen to ads, listen to content, listen to, like TV channels that are really going to like consumption of content is really going to add to your entire journey. Apart from that, modulation and, I think your voice, so to say, is just 30% of the entire deal. There's so much more to becoming a voice artist, like your fluency, modulation, your entire work ethics. How much of a student you become every time you enter the studio, how much you unlearn, learn, etc. So there is no, so to say, like there's no, I would say, rule book, so to say, but yes, your language accuracy, modulation skills, and how flexible and easy you are to work with. And I just generally think that, it's always very good to be very, very, polite and respectful towards everyone in your work environment. Like I always say that on my 4th recording of the day, I really need that chai so bad that I don't want to be rude to a peon, kind of a thing. So just be nice to everyone you're working with, just be polite with. And I think it just adds to the work experience.
Shall we try and take some questions? Are there any questions? Can we ask you to raise your hand? And
We actually have few questions.
Pearl, will you do the honors for that?
Surely. So first, a lot of people have been appreciating. Jaru and Karishma are here, and they have said an inspirational webinar. Thank you, dear Shenaz. You and our Parzor team brings us real gems, bringing us all together around the world, Jaru and Karishma. So Purveen says beautiful. Ruzbe Umrigar, I think he's from Navsari. He says really nice. Jasmine says awesome. So we do have, and I think somebody did ask a question. Yeah, Jaru has asked, Jaru and Karishma have asked, very well said, dear Binaifa, would you be happy to mentor young people who would like to launch into this career?
Most happily, Jaru and Karishma, I'm sorry. I would love to. I think it's a great community to be around, and the more the better, I would say. So most happily, I would love to connect with you. I think Pearl has shared my Instagram handle.
Yeah, I have.
So we could definitely take it forward, from my Instagram handle and then kind of connect personally. Thank you so much, Jaru and Karishma.
Shiva is saying, love your voice, Binaifa. Jasmine says, I love your Hindi videos. So these are all appreciation posts.
Thank you so much.
Anybody from the audience can also ask. I think Jaru wants to ask. Shashikant, can you unmute Jaru, please?
Actually, Pearl, she can unmute herself.
Thank you very much, Pearl, for bringing us such a good evening. Thank you, Meru Auntie, for bringing Binaifa to us in a personalized way. Binaifa, do you think it is of value? So a project that I would like to start is to help the younger generation in the traditional oral legacy format to hear stories of the Zoroastrian Daina from the elders to the younger people, and sometimes from the younger people in almost like a book club, and then put this down as a legacy for the future. Do you think you may be interested in this, or other people may be interested if I ask you for your inspirational message?
I would love to do this because I think just generally in India, the entire concept of storytelling has been something that we're used to since our childhood. So I think even as kids, we love to kind of sit next to our grannies and listen to these really age-old tales and things like that. And to kind of, really bring back the tradition is something that would be extremely interesting and exciting. I would personally love to do that. So please do let me know, Jaru, if you would like to connect, and I'm all up for it.
Lovely.
So, Jaro, I know a lot of people who do writing of the heritage of families, of the religion, etc. This is the first time I have heard of an oral request, which would be completely different because it would give a whole structure and a whole meaningfulness which has otherwise been lost. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can always onboard Meru as well with her vast experience.
Yeah, I'm open to that. I'm fine.
But this is my mummy Jaru, Auntie Meru. This is my mummy Jaru, and
Hello.
this is the reason why I believe in one generation giving it knowledge to the other, because that's when it really touches the heart.
Yes.
True. My mother
May I
used to
ask a
speak-
question?
Yeah, Ava, please. How are you, Ava?
Yeah, fine, fine. I just want to ask Binaifa, we would love to hear her say something in her mother tongue, Gujarati.
Auntie, તમે
Have
મને
you-
બોલો શું બોલું તમે મને બોલો તો હું બોલું કઈ બી
Nay, nay. Have you ever done any work with the Gujarati language?
I'll answer
In an
this entire question.
advertisement.
I'll answer this entire question in Gujarati. તો મેં ખાલી બે ads કીધી એક મારુતિ સુઝુકી ને વાસ્તે ને એક સંતૂર સાબુ ને વાસ્તે in Gujarati. But આંટી થાય શું કે એ લોકોની requirement is the Guju Gujarati. Now, આપણું
Yeah.
Parsi Gujarati na accents are a little different. I'm really sorry for all of you who may not be able to understand Gujarati. So I'm just trying to tell Ava auntie that, you know, Guju Gujarati is a little different from Parsi Gujarati, which is
Yeah.
why, you know, I need a little bit of, you know, direction and help, but I'm always up for it. But I cannot do like pages on end because I wouldn't say it's not my mother tongue. It's definitely my mother tongue, and my mom and I primarily speak Gujarati at home. But I'm very happy about that. But it's just that, you know, the dialect, so to say, is a little different. The pronunciations and the accent is a little different of Parsi Gujarati versus Guju Gujarati.
Yeah,
that
no, the
matter- Yes.
should the
yes,
Gujarati which the Gujaratis speak
yes,
is not as soft and sweet sounding as the
Yes.
Parsi Gujarati,
absolutely.
which is what we have got from the tribals and all with whom we,
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the question.
Ava, to add my tuppence, a lot of Gujarati today has infused it with English. And therefore, a lot of the vernacular, whether it's Hindi or Gujarati, I'm not so familiar with Marathi, so I won't bring that in, is got a lot of English words. And it has started with Bollywood. Today, you see any Bollywood Hindi movie, there is at least 20% English words in it. So I think there is this melange of various languages, which is corrupting both English as well as the vernacular.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the really interesting thing about Gujarati is also that, you know, a Surti Gujarati is going to be different from a
Different.
Navsari one, from an Ahmedabadi one.
Yes.
So yes, you know, so that is this one project that I'd done for Have More Ice Creams, I think, years ago in the beginning of my career. And I was doing the English voiceover and the Hindi and the Gujarati voiceover. Believe it or not, the English one, I did not get one correction. The Gujarati one, I had at least 15 corrections because of the pronunciations. So, but I'm really determined to kind of, you know, just kind of make it in that market as well.
Heta Pandit is even saying that, but you will be interested to know that Goa's Konkani has many Gujarati words in it.
Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. I think there's always an overlap, and that's the beauty of Indian languages, that you'll somewhere always understand the context, if not the exact word to word meaning. So
True.
Also, Marathi had a lot of Marathi words in Konkani.
Yeah.
So obviously,
There's
again-
Marathi, there's Bengali,
Mhm,
there's
mhm.
Tamil, Malayalam.
Oh, Tamil Malayalam, I did not know. Oh, live and learn.
Portuguese.
Yeah, Portuguese, of course.
Wow.
Ruzbe Umrigar is saying, hopefully we can collaborate in future endeavors, Binaifa.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Rosbe. Super looking forward to it.
That's awesome. And Jaru and Karishma are saying the project is the Zarthosti oral tradition. My email address, she's given her email address. Binaifa,
Sure.
you can go in the chat box and then you can take it. It will have
Sure.
Gatha, stories of Zarthosti tradition, etc.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
All right. So I'm going to send you an email, Jaru, and we'll take it forward from there. Thank you so much.
This is amazing. Okay, so I think we'll try and wrap up because I think everybody's done with their questions. Even Ruzbe has given his email ID, so please
Sure.
do get in touch with him also. He does a lot of
Ash.
work for us, even in Navsari.
Oh,
And
wow.
on the Navsari heritage and all, he's very, very,
How lovely.
yeah. So please, if you can do some work. Okay, sorry, somebody's written. Meher Nariman has asked, where can budding voiceover artists look for work, especially if they are not in India?
So Meher, that's slightly tricky because then first of all, you need to kind of, be very fluent in the languages that are used in that particular, country or city where you are. So for example, if I were to kind of settle down in London, then I would need to have that kind of an accent because that is the kind of English that they use. A neutral Indian accent would not work. So that is point A, that you need to really kind of, be fluent and familiarize yourself with those accents. I think, where do you look for work? I think LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. are great platforms to look for voice work. The media community and the voice artist community is extremely active on those platforms. And you have a lot of these other platforms like Upwork.com, freelancer.com, etc., where also, which is like a freelancers forum, so to say, wherein you can kind of post your samples. And yes, if a client is interested in your voice, they will get in touch with you.
Benaifa, sorry. No, go ahead.
I would just want to add one more thing, that, today there is no geographical limitation, so to say. So you could be sitting in any part of the world and you could be sharing your voice for a project that's in a completely different time zone and different part of the world. So it's not that, oh, I'm in India, so I'll only have Indian clients. I could be having clients who are based out of London, Singapore, etc. Of course, the time differences are something that you need to keep in mind. But apart from that, I think sitting in Bombay, I have clients who are like, okay, Binaifa, we are sending you the script, just record it, because we're not going to travel for 2 hours to come to the studio. So I think geography is like not a barrier anymore.
Especially after the pandemic.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's one more question, Pearl.
No, I think okay. Would you recommend pursuing voiceover as a part-time or a full-time career? Natasha has asked.
Hi, Natasha. So I would always suggest a freelance. I wouldn't say full-time or part-time. But the thing with this industry is that your deadlines are really, really very short at times. So you may probably get a client who tells you at 11 o'clock in the morning, can you please reach the studio at 12:01? So in which case, if you're having a full-time job, unless you lie or pretend to fall sick, there's no way. And how often are you going to fall sick, right? So I would just say that, it is a full-time career. It is a career on a freelance basis, unless you're planning to become an in-house artist for a particular corporate. Then it becomes a full-time career, but then you will be only able to be service to that particular corporate house, because they may have an agreement wherein they may not allow you to kind of work with other brands or other agencies or production houses. So then you're their full-time employee, so to say. But flexibility is extremely important and key when it comes to voicing.
Actually, Binaifa, what percentage of your work is voice artist or writer dubber, etc.? I mean, is there any ballpark figure that you can tell us?
So I would say, Meru, today, out of 100%, I would say 80 to 85% of my work is around the voicing space. 10 to 15 is around writing. And in that, I would say corporate AVs, I do a lot of corporate AVs. So I would say that would be a good 50%. Audiobooks are going to be another like 20, 30%. And as are, today a lot of apps are coming up as well, and like I'm,
Sure.
so today I'm like simultaneously voicing for one app called Hey, Hey, which is doing a whole lot of modules on different mental health issues like, stress, anxiety, depression, which is the need of the hour. And another app which is on yoga and yoga postures and asanas and pranayams and stuff. So a lot of apps are also coming out. So I would say broadly, the major chunk of my work would be corporate AVs, audiobooks, and these apps, and a small percentage would be ads. And then, of course, you also have a lot of internal training modules and orientation, voiceovers, etc., which kind of warm up new entries of a particular company to the company to explain the do's and don'ts, etc. So it's never a fixed, I would say, percentage, so to say. It keeps on fluctuating and varying. But yes, in a nutshell, it would be this. What should...
Okay, Vinayaka, it's my, because I've known you for so many years. Are you inclined going towards theater?
I would
Because
love
I
to.
remotely remember us actually discussing this.
Yes.
once.
So, Pearl, I remember I really wanted to do theater so badly that I was like, even if you make me a tree, I'll just stand on the stage as a tree. I wanted to, and I had the opportunity to, work on 2 plays with Roshan Auntie and the Danyar uncle. So
Okay,
yes,
that's what
yes.
I remember having this conversation with you once.
Yes. I have done 2 or 3 plays, but theater is a whole.
But
Yes.
do they call people like you for theaters to train other theater artists in voice, like, how to throw their voice like on
I think
in
it will be the
theater?
other way around. It will be the other way
Okay.
around. I would want to learn from a theater artist because I think
Okay.
they play with their body language, they play with their voice, their eyes, everything acts, Not to say, I'm not trying to kind of, I'm not trying to say that, voice acting is any lesser, but I think, theater is an entire school of acting.
True.
And then you have these little branches, so to say. But and it's a whole lot of dedication
Oh,
and
yes,
commitment.
yes.
I mean,
Yes,
you
I
would know
know.
that.
Yeah.
So yes, but and I think like never say never or never say a no to anything. You never know what may just happen.
True, of course. Of course. No, I always tell people that when I started dancing initially, people are like, so what do you do? And I said, I am a performer. No, but that is your passion. Like, what do you do otherwise? Like, I'm like, no, that's my
I
job.
know.
I get paid for it and I travel the world. But this is at least that whole mindset is at least changing today, which is
Absolutely.
why we are, even on this platform, we are getting so many more people who do unconventional job, or I mean, however you call it. And
Absolutely.
to encourage people to do, and there is so much today, to offer, and
Absolutely.
it's like it can become your full-time job.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you are good at
Absolutely.
it, of course. But
Absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, the only way to know whether or not you're good at something is by just trying it out.
Trying it out. Absolutely.
So
That's
I mean,
amazing. Yeah.
you'd rather love and lose than not love at all.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. I so agree.
Yes.
So agree.
So Binay, Natasha Mistry has one more question. What should be the first step if one wants to begin a career in this field? A response by someone is gargle, but I didn't go for it.
That's Ruth.
I thought he was telling me to gargle, and I was like, oh God, am I sounding a little weird? Okay, now I got it. So Natasha, I would say it is very helpful, especially if you're somebody who has never, learned acting, or you're from an absolutely non-singing background or non-performance background. It's always a good idea to do a very, very short workshop that kind of warms you up to the mic, that basically teaches you the basic technicalities of the industry, of the mic, how to mark a script, the kind of proximity that you need to have between the mic and your mouth, etc. And you basically need to know, it's like a crash course. You need to know whether you will fall in love with the industry or not. You will fall in love with the art or not. Because I remember when I had done my weekend workshop, we were around 10 or 11 in the entire batch. And I think one artist and I are the only two who kind of really pursued this. The rest did not want to, because they had some other commitments and things like
And
that.
it could even be pressure, na? Like I said, like this is not something serious. You need to do something serious.
Exactly. And also, I would say that be very, very sensible and sane if you are planning to make the switch, because, very, very honestly and practically speaking, the first 1 or 2 years are really, really tough. Because I mean, there is no voice which will be like, oh, this is the voice we've been waiting for, to kind of land into the industry, sort of a thing, every voice is special, every voice is beautiful. But interestingly enough, the supplies to demand ratio is still very skewed. There is a lot of work, there's a lot of demand, but the amount of supply, the amount of talent that's coming in is as much and more. So you need to be really, really patient. Like what I said in the beginning, that I started out in 2011. 2017 is when I really started getting regular work. For me, it was a dream to do 4 voiceovers in a day. It was like my hashtag goals sort of
Yeah,
a thing.
absolutely. I can imagine.
So that happens over a period of time. A lot of people kind of just lose patience, and I mean, understandably so. You have responsibilities.
Exactly. You have responsibilities. That is, I think, one of the main reasons people, have to sort of look out for another job and then maybe do this as a passion.
I agree.
It is.
But the thing is that it's not a part-time passion that you can have. It's a full-time passion that you need to have. So, yes.
True. We are trying to get so many more people who do these kind of unconventional jobs, as to say. And next week we are going to be having a very interesting session. So please do join in for that too. She is Bollywood stunt woman, Sanobar Pardiwala, on 4th of March. So yes, I'm actually, she has done body double for Aishwarya Rai, and the best of scenes that you've seen in Bollywood, where she's the main person doing the stunts. So that'll be another very interesting session, and we are trying to do this all for Women's Day. We are getting in more and more people to speak about unconventional passions that they are following, which is amazing.
A big thank you once again, Pearl, Dr. Kama, Parzoor, and Geo Parsi for really kind of, giving us this opportunity.
Of
course. Else, usually our, panel discussions and all are just, it will be, it's limited, you know. And like you said, the first thing is, acha, voice over karte ho, lekin uske alawa kya karte ho?
And I'm sort of glad I told you to get a moderator for this session so that I could get introduced to Meru. It's so amazing to actually now know her. I mean, I know her now since 3 weeks. So it's amazing. Always.
I couldn't think of it.
Yeah. I mean, thank God I said, no, I'm not moderating this. You have to get somebody. So it's always amazing to meet more people who are more inclined towards the same topic, and the flow is always very different and positive.
I loved being here too, Pearl, and really thank you to Dr. Kama, to Shrikant, to Shama, and of course the two charming ladies. So
Thank
it was
you
a
so
pleasure
much.
to be here too.
Thank you.
Says the most charming of all.
Absolutely. So thank you, viewers,
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
in. Thank you,
Thank
Binny.
you.
Thank you, Meru. And thank you, viewers. And do join us on 4th March with Sanobar Pardiwala, a stunt woman of Bollywood. Thank you and have an
Amazing.
awesome weekend.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Pearl.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Meru.
Thank
See
you,
all. Thank you,
Binaifar.
everyone.
All the
Thank you,
best.
everyone.
May you
Thank
get
you.
inundated with work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.